My name's Rafael, you watch Rock and Roll Garage, and as you know, we sadly lost Brian Wilson at the age of 82, the mastermind behind the Beach Boys, and obviously countless rock stars, famous artists paid their tribute to the musician, and today I'm going to show you some of them. So let's start by the surviving original members of the Beach Boys. First, Mike Love. Mike Love said, "Today the world lost a genius, and I lost a cousin by blood and my partner in music." Brian Wilson wasn't just the heart of the Beach Boys, he was the soul of our sound. From the first time we sang together as kids in my living room, I knew there was something otherworldly in him. His musical gifts were unmatched. The melodies he dreamed up, the emotions he poured into every note. Brian changed the course of music forever. Our journey together was filled with moments of brilliance, heartbreak, laughter, complexity, and most of all, love. Like all families, we had our ups and downs, but through it all, we never stopped loving each other, and I never stopped being in awe of what he could do when he sat at a piano or his spontaneity in the studio. Brian's unique artistry and our collaboration gave the world the American dream of optimism, joy, and sense of freedom. Music that made people feel good, made them believe in an endless summer and endless possibilities. It was one of the greatest blessings of my life to experience that creative space with him. It was our privilege to make the world believe in sunshine, surfing, and teenage dreams. My life was forever changed by Pet Sounds, God Only Knows, In My Room, Good Vibrations, The Warmth of the Sun, and 100 other pieces of his soul wrapped in music. He allowed us to show the world that what vulnerability and brilliance sound like in harmony. He was fragile, he was intense, he was funny, and he was one of a kind. My wife, Jacqueline, and I are heartbroken. She stood beside me through so many chapters of this history, and we both send our love and prayers to Brian's family, his children, and all who were touched by his life and gifts. Brian, you once asked, "Wouldn't it be nice if we were older?" Now you're timeless. May you rest in peace. You so deeply deserve, surrounded by the heavenly music you helped create. May your spirit soar as high as your falsetto. May your wings spread in effortless flight. Thank you for the harmonies, the memories, and the love. Death leaves a heartache no one can heal. Love leaves a memory no one can steal. I'll miss you forever, my beloved cousin. Our Jardine. Brian Wilson, my friend, my classmate, my football teammate, my Beach Boy bandmate, and my brother in spirit. I will always feel blessed that you were in our lives for as long as you were. I think the most comforting thought right now is that you are reunited with Carl and Dennis, singing those beautiful harmonies again. You were a humble giant who always made me laugh, and we will celebrate your music forever. Brian, I will really miss you. Still, I have the warmth of the sun. Paul McCartney. Brian had that mysterious sense of musical genius that made his songs so achingly special. The notes he heard in his head and passed to us were simple and brilliant at the same time. I loved him, and I was privileged to be around his bright, shining light for a little while. How we will continue without Brian Wilson, God only knows. Thank you, Brian. Bob Dylan. Heard the sad news about Brian today and thought about all the years I've been listening to him and admiring his genius. Rest in peace, dear Brian. Elton John. Brian Wilson was always so kind to me from the day I met him. He sang Someone Saved My Life Tonight at a tribute concert in 2003, and it was an extraordinary moment for me. I played on his solo records, he sang on my album, The Union, and even performed for my AIDS Foundation. I grew to love him as a person, and for me, he was the biggest influence on my songwriting ever. He was a musical genius, a revolutionary. He changed the goalposts when it came to writing songs and shaped music forever. A true giant. Keith Richards, he shared a photo of an excerpt from his book Life that he said, "Round, round, get around, I get around." I thought that was brilliant. Brian Wilson had something. In my room, Don't Worry Baby, I was more interested in their B-sides, the one he slipped in. There was no particular correlation with what we were doing, so I could just listen to it on another level. I thought these are very well constructed songs. Mick Fleetwood from Fleetwood Mac. Anyone with a musical bone in their body must be grateful for Brian Wilson's genius, magic touch, and greatly saddened of this major worldly loss. My thoughts go out to his family and friends, Mick Fleetwood and the Fleetwood Mac family. Dave Davies from the Kinks, devastated to hear of Brian Wilson's passing. He had such a profound effect on me. The Kinks played the Hollywood Bowl with the Beach Boys on our first US tour. Sad day. Years later, Brian and I used to run into each other at the movies with our daughters and we'd catch up. I'm devastated. I loved his singing. He was an innovator and his writing prowess was remarkable. I loved him. Graham Nash. Rest in peace, Brian Wilson. What a joy, what a vision, what a genius he brought into our lives. He set the musical course in a new direction. How lucky we are to have his beautiful sound to cherish for all time. My heart goes out to his family and friends and to all of us who lives have been musically expanded and uplifted by Brian. Paul Stanley from Kiss. Brian Wilson has died. Genius is a term used too often and too loosely. Tortured genius even more so. Brian's astonishing output of his musical brilliance will bring joy while it influences generations to come. Thank you, Brian, and rest in peace. Steve Perry from Jardine. I remember being a teenager and hearing Surfer Girl for the first time on the radio. It completely made me pull my car over and simply listen to all the beautiful, unique sounds that were presenting this amazing song to me. A month or so later, I heard In My Room and immediately became an anthem of approval to my teenager feelings, fears, and confusions. Many years later, during the COVID pandemic, the world was thrown into isolation, and I was emotionally once again sent back into my teenage feelings. Alone in my room, I recorded a little video message. Thank you, Brian Wilson, for enriching my life. Sincerely, Steve Perry. Cat Stevens. Sorry to hear of the passing of two giants of musical innovation, Sly Stone and Brian Wilson. Without Pet Sounds, my first single would never have sounded the same. Mike Hurst, my producer, was infatuated with that album and tried his best to replicate the innovative use of classical instruments to complement the sonics. Randy Bachman. Oh gee, we say goodbye to Brian Wilson. I've known the Beach Boys since the mid-60s and have done lots of shows with them. They were the American answer to the Beatles. They evolved everyone with their songs. Structures, vocals, harmonies, the Sunshine Sound. I remember when Brian decided to not go on the road anymore, but continued to write incredible music. They were like family. When Carr passed, it was like losing a brother, and it feels the same today. They are still going today with their incredible legacy with Bruce Johnston and Mike Love. We lost one of the greatest composers and messengers who took jazz harmony, put it to a Chuck Berry beat, and made a new genre of music. Some of the best singles in the world. Dennis, Carl, and Brian are all together now. Other words to sing in. Peter Gabriel, what an extraordinary talent. Brian Wilson single-handedly raised the bar on how to write and arrange a great pop song. He inspired and touched so many songwriters, including me. He pushed the Beatles towards Sgt. Pepper, and God only knows he created a masterpiece that remains unmatched to this day. Godspeed, Brian. Billy Idol, sad to hear of Brian Wilson's passing. Got to perform with the Brian Wilson Band about 4 or 5 years ago at the Greek Theater, and at the sound check, Brian told me how much he loved my song Eyes Without a Face. which was kind of incredible to me as I was such a fan of the early Beach Boys and Pet Sounds through Surf's Up. Micky Dolenz from the Monkees. Hard to put this one into words. Brian Wilson was a true giant, not just music, but of spirit. His melodies shaped a generation, his harmonies changed the game, and his soul came through in every note. We crossed paths many times over the years, and every time I was struck by his quiet genius and kind heart. I was lucky to know him, and all of us were lucky to hear what was in his head. Rest peacefully, Brian. You gave us so much beauty. These are just a few statements famous rock stars released, and many of them still didn't post anything in this moment that I'm recording this video. And you know, it just shows how important Brian was. You know, when a famous musician dies, and I've been in this rock and roll journalism for about 8 years already, and every time someone dies, you can measure their influence and their importance for many different kinds of artists, about what those artists say, if they pay tribute to the musician or not. And I can remember, for example, Eddie Van Halen. It was practically everybody that posted something about him, lamenting his death. But with Brian, is even bigger because he was a rock and pop artist and someone who changed really the songwriting and etc. He influenced more people than Eddie Van Halen, obviously. So everybody, from pop groups to heavy metal groups, heavy metal artists, and from other music genres, they all pay tribute to him. So that's really, really interesting, and it shows how important Brian was. And that's it. If you want to watch more stuff about Brian, I already did a video, really interesting video, of his 3 favorite Beatles albums and songs. So you can watch below the video. And don't forget to subscribe, like the video, and leave a comment. If you want to read more, go to the description and visit the article. There's a lot of other artists, like, for example, Hugh Lewis, Nancy Wilson, Vernon Reid from Living Colour, what they said about Brian. Okay? Thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.